Okay, says I'm live. Um, Probably don't have anybody watching yet because I didn't announce any of this. But rather than sit here and wait till people come in, I think what I'll do is I'll just start telling you a story. Probably need to come up with a good story to tell for an intro. Hunting story, fishing story. Okay, I'll tell you a fishing story until somebody starts watching. If you can hear me on the side chat, I don't know if anybody can hear me. Last time I had audio problems. So if you can hear me, just say, hey, yeah, we can hear you. And I'm going to tell you a fishing story. I'll tell you a bow fishing story. Okay, so we were at Locking Dam 13 on the Arkansas River. This is the first dam on the Arkansas navigational system. And we were bow fishing at night where the water goes into the generators. And as the water goes into the generators, gar and different rough fish would come in and they would be swimming up current, but the current's fast going into the generators. So at night there were big lights, I guess for safety, in case somebody fell in or if a boat washed up. So these big lights shine down there on the water that goes into the generator. And we would sit down there and occasionally you'd have your little gar, he'd come swimming up and just be swimming on the surface. And one of us would shoot at it with our bow fishing rigs and we would move on from there. So we're doing this. This is just a way of passing the time in Arkansas, bow fishing below or above a generator. So out in the middle, like, like, I don't know, maybe 25 or 30 yards away, there was just this little ripple. It wasn't moving. It was kind of like if you had a log under the water and the water was running over it and you just had this little ripple. And we thought it was a log because logs wash in there a lot. So we just thought it was a log that had washed in. And I kept looking at it going, I don't think that's a log. I think that's a fish. I just don't think he's moving. And so as time went by, I noticed the ripple wasn't there anymore. And I said, well, that log must have washed away. I looked back out there and the ripple was there. And I said, guys, that's not a log. That's a fish swimming out there. But he was kind of out of the light and it was a long ways. And they were like, even if it is a fish, none of us have enough string to hit it. Well, I had just put new string on my reel. I thought, well, I might have enough. So I pulled back and I had my bow and I drawed back and I aimed. And I held the end of my arrow at the top of the fence on the other side of the river, thinking, at least I'll have an aiming reference. And I shot. And when my arrow come down, it got almost to the water and I ran out of string. And when my arrow hit the water, right as it ran out of string, there was a humongous splash. And they were like, I told you didn't have enough line. I said, I told you it was a fish. I had no kind of idea what kind of fish it was. I assumed it was a big carp or something. So like 30 minutes go by and the ripple's back. I mean, it's just a ripple. It's just a little ripple. And I said, guys, that's that fish. No, it ain't. That's a log. I said, you saw last time I shot, it was a gigantic fish. So I pulled my bow back again. This is second try. I aimed at the fence rail on the other side. I kind of looked down at the fish. And I leaned out because I knew if the fish was here, the ripple would kind of be back here. So I aimed a little bit forward of where I did. And I thought, if I run out of string, I run out of string, but I should be right on the fish. So I let my arrow go. My arrow's going out there. It's coming down. It's dropping. The string is just spiraling out of my reel. And right when my arrow hit the water, right in front of the ripple, that was all the string I had. And it went like boom and nothing. And they were laughing, going, I told you didn't have enough string. I told you didn't have enough string. But about that time, my line started zipping up the river. And I said, who's got string now? So I'm cranking on this thing. I have no idea what I shot. So I'm cranking on this thing. My line's going upstream. I mean, it's pulling. It's like really pulling. I shot like a 30-pound wide Amur carp one time. It didn't pull like this. So I'm cranking on this thing. Finally, I start gaining ground. I get a little bit of line back in my reel. I'm still cranking. So we're moving along. Finally, I get it up there, and this thing rolls up on its side, and I can. The water's muddy on the Arkansas, but I can see big silver, and I'm like, this thing's huge, as long as my leg, and I'm cranking and cranking. It comes up, it rolls over again, and I can see stripes in it. And I'm like, oh man, that ain't no carp, that ain't no gar, that's a striper. And so I get it up there, and there's a fence, there's a concrete wall, and then way down there, there's water. And I've got this striper that's as long as my leg, longer than my leg, hanging down in the water. So one guy leans over the fence, another guy gets a hold of his legs. He grabs a hold of the arrow because we couldn't pull it up with just the string. It was cutting our hands. He grabbed a hold of the nock of the arrow, and he pulls his fish up and lays it down. And this is a 36-inch, 23-pound striper. You're not allowed to shoot striped bass, by the way. So we're laying it there. We're all in awe of it. And here's the greatest thing about it. I hit that striper perfectly in this eye socket and out this eye socket. I didn't tear up any meat. I didn't tear up any skin. I shot it in one eye and out the other eye. And that didn't affect the brain. That didn't affect the fighting. I blinded the fish, and I had him on the bowfish. And this kid's there. He goes, you hit him right in the eyes. I said, son, where in the world you think I was aiming? And they were all like, yeah, whatever. I said, none of y'all had faith in me. So then it dawned on us, okay, here I am. I've shot a striper through the eyeballs. If I throw him back in the river, he got no chance of living. I've broken the law. I shot a game fish with a bow. So this guy had some firewood in the back of his truck. So we took the striper, pulled some firewood back, laid the striper down, and then stacked logs over it. So it looked like it was just part of a rick of firewood. We left there about midnight or 1 o'clock. I took that fish home. They convinced me to get it mounted, and I got it mounted in my living room. It's a 23-pound, 36-inch long striped bass shot through the eyes right where I was aiming. I was just shooting out a ripple in the water at the end of my line. Anyways, I tell you that story so that we get a few people on here. And I hate watching these live chats where people are just over here reading the side chat, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer your questions. So if you got a question for me, if you got a question about our channel, about me personally, maybe what I do, where I live, I'm in my office. I am a pastor. This is my office. I have a bookshelf where the computer sits, and this is kind of what you would see behind me, as well as a real junky desk with a bunch of stuff on it, and one of these. Yeah, did not open it inside. And he dared me on the back. It says, preacher, we love you, preacher. I dare you to hang this in your office. Merry Christmas, Uncle Jim. Okay, Uncle Jim, I'll hang it right here on my bulletin board. That's right above my Almond Brothers Eat a Peach sticker. I'll show you. Right there. See the Eat a Peach? There's Uncle Jim hanging there. Oh yeah, you want to see my office? I'll give you a look around. Bunch of theological books. I've got a row of like old duck decoys up top. They're not really decoys. Some of them are. I got them mounted. I mounted that buffalo head years ago. More books, bear skull. More books, junk. Anyways, everybody drunk from watching me turn that camera around. All right, let's see here. Got any questions? We got 18 people watching this. I had to come into the office today and work on some stuff. I thought I was here. I had good internet. I just do a live stream. So have we got any questions yet? So I got a question. What kind of overalls are those you're wearing? These are Big Smiths. And I don't know what it is about this dark blue material. It's the only one I got like this, but the snaps never stay on these. Lucky for me, these snaps stay, but these little pocket snaps never stay on the dark blue overalls. And Big Smiths, the ones I wear, they're built for me, a Big Smith. All right. Any other things? Coyote Man, Grady Gann, have you ever ate a grasshopper? So Grady Gann, the Coyote Man, is my uncle, and he was going through this. I'm going to go join the, I don't know, the Navy SEALs or something like that. He was doing all the survival stuff, and he was eating grasshoppers and biting the heads off fish. And he was about 12 years older than me. So I would have been about 8 or 9. Yeah. And I thought, well, if Uncle Grady can eat a grasshopper, I can eat a grasshopper. So I ate a grasshopper in front of the neighborhood kids, and they just couldn't believe it. So I'm at a football game, and the neighborhood kids are there, and they're like, hey, Harold ate a grasshopper. No, he didn't. He wouldn't eat a grasshopper. Well, if you give me $1, I'll eat another one. Well, next thing I know, it looks like a cockfighting match. There's people with dollar bills out and grasshoppers in their hand. They're catching under the lights at a football game. I'm taking the dollar, taking the grasshopper, tearing the back legs off and eating them. I made $18 before my dad got down out of the stands and found me and was like, what are you doing? He thought I was in a fight. He thought there was a fight going on, and that's why everybody was crowded around me. And it wasn't a fight. I was just eating grasshoppers for $1 a piece. So $18, my dad squashed that money-making deal. And I owe it all to my Uncle Grady, who got me started eating grasshoppers. So there's that. Now, if you got questions for me, any kind of questions about me, the channel, what I do, any of that, just lay them on me. You're not as stuffy as many preachers I've been around. Can you tell us how and when you were called to preach? Good question. That's a Jiggy Monster Bully Pup. I was 31 years old when I surrendered to preach. I got out of high school, and man, I was raking the money in, building swimming pools, concrete swimming pools for $7.25 an hour. Working to death in the summer, starving to death in the winter. I wanted to get married. My wife said, if we get married, you're going to have a better paying job and some insurance and all that. And so I went to work in a factory, and I worked at Beckart Steel Wire. I worked in a wire mill for 6 years, and I hated it. I hated every day of it. So I left there and went to work at Frito-Lay selling potato chips. And that was a job that I really thought they'll pry my dead hands off the wheel of this Frito truck. I loved being a salesman. I was good with people. I could manage my own inventory, work my own hours. And I worked a lot of hours, and I made a lot of money, and it was great. And they just kept cutting my pay and giving parts of my route to other people because I was making too much money. And the long and short of it, I left that job for another sales job. And there I was selling swimming pool products. And I didn't have to do any kind of physical labor. I didn't have to, deliver chips and put them on the shelf. I just drove around and talked to people. I knew sales and I knew pools. And I thought, man, here's another great job. And those people never paid me. They never paid me anything they promised me. I was the top salesman in our company. And I got half the bonus they promised me I'd get. I didn't get the company truck. So I was really wrestling with the idea of being a preacher because I was so frustrated with what I was hearing being preached in churches. And I didn't think people were preaching the truth. What I would read in the Bible and what I would hear from the pulpit were two different things. And so I prayed one night to God. I said, God, would you send us preachers that would preach the Bible and not their opinion? And the answer I got back was not audible, like, you shall preach. It was just this kind of logical conclusion. Well, why don't you preach? You've studied the Bible your whole life. You grew up in church. You have the ability to talk. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to do no preaching. I just want you to send somebody else. And then where I bear hunted at, back then I used to bear hunt. I've killed 3 bears. I wouldn't kill another one unless he was biting my arm off. But where I used to bear hunt at, there was a Union Hope Baptist Church. And it had a sign on the front that said established in like 1856 or 1886 or something like that. And it was a little tiny church, and it had an outhouse out beside it, and they could never keep a preacher. And I thought, God, it's sad. This is just me thinking out loud to God. I said, God, it's sad that you got a church that's been here for 150 years and nobody wants to come down here and preach at it. And then the logical thought back to me was, well, why don't you come down and preach at it? And I'm like, oh, no, I can't do that. So I'm at this job where they're not paying me what they're supposed to be paying me. I'm their top salesman. And, it finally dawned on me. I thought, you know what? I'll go buy a lawnmower and a weed eater, and I'll go mow grass, and then I'll go preach at some little podunk church in the middle of nowhere, and I'll be their pastor, and I'll just make a living mowing grass. And so I told my Sunday school teacher, I said, don't tell anybody, but I think God's calling me to be a preacher. Well, first thing he went and did was went and told the pastor, hey, I think Harold's called to be a preacher. And they were already trying to get me to have my own Sunday school class and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't want anything official. I wanted to be a pastor with no strings attached. I wanted to be able to go back and work and not have to worry about all this other stuff. So the pastor's told the Sunday school teacher, he said, bring him up to the house. He said, I'll talk to him. And the pastor's plan was to talk me out of being a preacher. And so I went up there and he's like, so tell me why you want to preach. And I just told him I didn't think that this guy was the interim pastor. We were without a pastor. He was an older man and a very good preacher. And I just told him most preachers aren't preaching. They're just getting up, giving their opinion. And I'm sick of it. And I want God to send more preachers. And the answer I get back is, why don't you go do it? You seem to know it all. So he said, well, when the new preacher gets here, you tell him that you think God's called you to preach, and we'll let the new pastor deal with you. Because I think you're called to preach. He gave me a little book on how to prepare a sermon. So when our pastor came, I said, hey, I think God's called me to preach. He said, hey, that's great. Why don't you preach Sunday night? And I'm like, no, I don't sign up for that. I mean, this is a big church. We're talking about church run 400 people. I want to go to the church out in the middle of the Bear Woods that runs 5 people. And so I went. I didn't know. I never preached a sermon. I didn't know anything. I just got up and I preached that night. And I remember I preached on Gideon. Gideon was called to deliver Israel, and said he wasn't qualified. That's the way I felt. And I preached, and the church voted to license me to preach. They took up some money to buy me some clothes, because this was what I usually, wore around the house. I didn't have a suit and tie or none of that. And so they said, go down to the association office and tell them that you think God's called you to preach. And our church backs you. We license you to preach. So I went down there and I said, hey, my name's Harold Smith, and I'm here to preach if any of you need somebody. From that day on, I preached every Sunday somewhere. And I preached from that day on somewhere in a church for about the next 9 months. And by fall, I quit my job, bought a lawnmower, was preaching in different churches when the pastor gets sick or whatever. By November, I was pastoring a little church about 20 minutes east of my house. I pastored there a year, and I came to the church where I'm at now, and I've been here 12 years last November, so a little over 12 years. And I've had a lot of opportunities to go other places, but I really love the church I'm at. They seem to love me, and I don't really have any desire to leave here. So that's how I backed into it. I was 31 years old when I started preaching. I don't have any seminary. I'm not anti-seminary, but I learned how to deal with people by being a salesman. I learned how to deal with blue-collar people by building pools and working in a wire factory. I sat in fancy sales meetings and in resorts and heard CEOs talk. So I've been on the whole scale. I've been on the top and I've been on the bottom. And I think that gives me an understanding of how to take God's word and give it to people in terms they can understand it. Because if you don't understand it, what good is it doing? If a preacher gets up and talks over your head, what does that do? I mean, how does that benefit you or them or anybody else? So to answer your question, that's how I became a pastor. So long answer, but that's it. And anybody else got any questions? that you'd like for me to answer? I think that was my wife calling me. I probably better text her that I'm doing a live. That way I got a place to bed down for the night when I get home. Just a second. Bear with me while I keep my marriage going. Okay. I got a really good wife. She's very understanding. And I'm speaking in advance in case I get killed. Hello? Hey. Probably about another 45 minutes. All right. I'm doing a live stream on YouTube, so. It'll be after dark. All right. I'll see you about 6. All right. Bye. See there? She's a great, great wife, guys. Great wife. All right. Preacher, last video about us Californians homesteading in the Free State really hit home. Guys, I'll be honest with you. I took a little trip out to California this past summer. I went to LA. My son, it was his senior year. He graduated. He's had a friend out there that he's talked back and forth with on the internet for probably 5 or 6 years. And he always wanted to go out there and to meet her. And so we went out there and spent about a week. And the lack of freedom that you have in California shocked me. I mean, I had heard about it, you know, the gun laws and all that stuff. And of course, I'm traveling loaded all the way out there. And then I'm trying to comply with their laws for the time that I'm in Cali. And I'm just here to tell you, guys, if there's not enough of you out there to turn that around, you really, really, really missing your life. You're really missing freedom by living out there. I mean that. I'm not telling you got to get out. I know you got wives and kids and jobs, and I understand all that. But America's a great place to live. You really ought to come try it sometime. I mean, every evening outside of my house, I hear shooting. There is a gun manufacturer not far from me that sells full auto weapons. I mean, I go out in the evening and it sounds like a young war taking off. And you would never hear that. And I'm not trying to criticize you guys that are there. I'm just telling you, I'm concerned about the erosion of our freedoms in America. And I really think if you guys got out and lived somewhere where you could enjoy the things I enjoy, going out in my yard, firing up a chainsaw without worrying about them being too loud for the neighbors, cutting up a tree, building a fire, cooking hot dogs on it, getting my gun out and shooting a deer in the yard, killing a mess of squirrels, going fishing in your own pond. All of these things are things that are going to be, I don't know, they're going to be things of the past. So I'm not trying to criticize you guys that live in Cali, but I went there. I saw it firsthand over the summer, and I'll never go back. I never go back. I've got some good friends that live there. I've got family out there. They're good churches in California. But I don't think I could surrender all of my rights as an American citizen just to live in that state. Not when you could cross the border. I mean, here's the funny thing. We left there and went to Vegas. In Vegas, of all places, you can have a pistol in your pocket and walk in a casino when it's perfectly legal. If you got a concealed carry permit. If you got to live out there, move to Nevada. They seem to have some freedoms. And then just cross over into commie land to see your family. All right, I didn't mean to rant and rave about that. I want you guys to experience what we're. Okay, question. Why isn't Uncle Jim's card in your office? Uncle Jim, you were late for the party, but it is hanging right there above the Allman Brothers Eat a Peach sticker. And for your information, Jim, I hold the Allman Brothers in high esteem, and for you to be right above them says a lot about who you are. Okay, why I love that story, practical common sense approach to spreading the word. That's why you're special. I hate to sit here and read this stuff. How can someone lend support to your church? Well, my views about the church are this. I believe it's the church's responsibility to support the church. And by church, I don't mean building. I mean the people that attend here are the people that fund my occupation and everything that we have together in this body. So you'll never see me selling t-shirts, raise money, doing a car wash, church having a rummage sale, selling all of our junk to support the Lord. If God's people won't support God's work, a church ought to close. That's my view on it. So my thinking is this. I don't ever ask for help or support or any of that. You can look up Lee Creek Baptist Church online. You can see, you can hear my sermons online if you want to hear me preach. I've got about 1,200 sermons online if you're interested in that. So don't really need support. Are you going to get Coleman to do any more videos with you? My son Coleman is, that's his friend Trevor. Trevor grew up with us. I remember taking Trevor to all the Chinese place where they chop it up in front of you. I can't think of what that's called. Anyways, they're making stir-fried rice, and they throw about 6 eggs in the rice, and Trevor leans over and goes, "I'm allergic to eggs." Well, he survived. He wants to know if I'm going to have Coleman do any more videos with me. Coleman has his own channel called Cheesy Squeezy. And Cheesy Squeezy's kind of like video games and stuff him and his friends do. And he thinks my channel's pretty stupid because I'm redneck, and that's okay. That's part of turning 18 and thinking your dad's old-fashioned and out of date. What's the difference between a priest, a pastor, a preacher, a reverend, and a deacon? All right, let's knock deacon off the list. Deacons are not required to teach. A reverend and a preacher are just someone who proclaim the word of God. You can be a preacher and not be a pastor. A pastor has the responsibility of caring for a church, a flock. The word pastor means shepherd. So I call this preacher's day off, but technically I am a pastor in that I am the overseer and care for a body of believers here. A priest is someone who does business with God on behalf of someone else. I'm not a priest. I'm a preaching pastor. As a Baptist, we believe in the priesthood of the believer. So we believe that every person who believes in Jesus Christ is able to go to God directly because we have a high priest who is Jesus Christ, who intercedes for us. So there's one priest in my view, and that's Christ. And I am a pastor proclaiming who he is regularly to one group of people whom I have the requirements and obligation to instruct and see that they grow in their understanding of God's word and the Christian life. Hope that clarifies some stuff, Michael. There just ain't no place for a Southern boy to live. I can't imagine. No, you can. But if you want to come and live among us Southern boys, you're going to have to leave your New England and your West Coast theology behind. Just come down here and be like us. Don't come down here and make us Californians. Virginians are about to have their ARs banned. Probably so. They have moved on past guns. Things that really drive me crazy are the little things like begging for straws, a glass of water, paying for shopping bags, $1 extra at the gas station. I want to tell you something. West Covina Dodge, you brought up something. When I went to Walmart in California, we went to get a couple 12 packs of pop, and some chips, just snack stuff to keep in the motel room. You know, if we got in late and you wanted something to eat or drink, we had it. We wasn't paying $1.75 for a can of pop in the hallway. So I go down there and I pay for this, and I get done. I'm like, that seemed awful high. What's the taxes? Well, we paid a recycling fee on those cans of pop when we got them. And I'm like, well, how do you get your money back? And they said, well, you crush them and you go feed them into this machine. And I'm like, where's the machine at? And they're like, they're all broke. They don't work. I was like, how convenient. Then I paid like 8 cents for a sack. And I thought, man, this is ridiculous. And you're right. It's all those little things. It's all those little things. I remember when I went to Maine, and here's something you people probably don't know about me. You look at me, you see these videos, you think that guy's redneck, hillbilly, you know, backwoods, barefoot, bucktooth, knows nothing. I've been in almost every state in this country. I would say out of the 50, I've probably been in 43 or 4 of them. I hadn't been to Alaska and Hawaii, so we're talking lower 48. I've been in almost every state. I've been in almost every major city. I've been to Canada 3 times, I think. Mexico 3 times. I served in the military. I actually know a little more than you people think I do about the way things go. So, but yeah, when I was in Maine, in the bathroom of the house we were staying in, there were 3 trash cans. One was for paper waste. One was for actual waste. One was for this and this. Maybe there were 4 cans. And there was a little line at the bottom of our bill that said if we didn't separate our waste, that the housekeeping would separate it for us and we would pay a fee. And I thought, you're going to charge me if I put a Q-tip in the wrong trash can? In Arkansas, there's a barrel out back. People burn their trash because they don't want to pay to have it taken off. You guys have lost your mind living in that kind of a situation. You mentioned your son. How many kids do you have? I have a daughter that's a senior in college, and I have a son that is a freshman in college. So I have 2, a boy and a girl. Both very, very good kids. Couldn't have asked for better kids than the 2 I've got. Have you ever thought about live streaming your service? We have. We've never live streamed it. We've put videos of the preaching portion on sermon audio. If you go to sermonaudio.com and type in Lee Creek Baptist Church, we used to put videos up there, but the problem is it just takes a lot of time to download an hour sermon, edit it, chop the ends off, upload it. It just was taking a little bit too much of my time. We had a lady here that used to do it, but she lived a long ways off, and she's not able to do it anymore. We do have the equipment to live stream it. We just haven't got around to doing it. That's one of the things I hope to accomplish this year, is to get some of that stuff in place. We don't do the whole service because you run into all these copyright problems with songs. And basically, our church sings a cappella anyways most of the time. So it's just a group of people singing old hymns that you've heard since you were a little kid. And we're pretty, I guess you would say traditional. So, but you can, if you want to hear a sermon or you want to watch a sermon, they exist. The church has a YouTube page as well. Not everyone in New England thinks that way. I agree, but obviously not a majority of you think that way, because you're losing every vote that comes up, and your legislatures are making these laws, and there's nothing y'all can do about it. So I know everybody up there doesn't believe like that, but that's what's coming out of those areas. Will my German Shepherd ever stop eating trees? Man, ours doesn't eat trees, but our sheds like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, I swear if we don't sweep the living room at least once a week, and I mean go around and get all the edges and sweep everything at least once a week, there's hairballs floating around big as a rat in there. So I don't know if he'll ever stop eating trees, but I can guarantee you this, he's probably going to shed the rest of his life. Okay, a 12-pack of pop. I love it. In the South, will it ever be soda? most everybody here says Coke, but my dad worked for almost 30 years for Pepsi Cola, so I got trained to say pop, but it'll never be soda. Soda is something that's a powder that you bake with. I'm missing 5 states. That's about what I'm missing, I would guess. Hawaii's like Myrtle Beach with a higher price tag. Funny thing is, I had 6 years in the National Guard, in the Air National Guard, and I was in the Security Forces Division. And every year for our summer camp, we either went to Nevada, to the desert, or Gulfport, Mississippi, to some muggy, sandy, just awful place, or we had an inspection or whatever. And so the whole time I was in, our summer camps always were awful. And then the year I was getting out, like 2 months after my 6-year enlistment was up, they were sending us to Hawaii for 2-week summer camp. And they told us, they said, what you're going to do is work a 4-hour shift of beach patrol on a 4-wheeler each week. So you're going to work like 8 hours of beach patrol on the beaches of Hawaii, and you'll get this per diem for the difference in cost of living. And so they were like, you ought to re-up for another year and just go to Hawaii. And I'm like, no, I was starting to push the maximum weight limit already, and they were having to tape my neck and my arms, and I was always been thick, and I could always beat the tape. But my belly was starting to catch the rest of me. And I was tired of having to shave every month. And my wife wanted me to grow the mullet out that she saw when she first saw me. And so I got out. Well, my buddy, he re-upped to go to Hawaii because he's like, I'm getting a free trip on Uncle Sam to go to Hawaii. He re-upped. He went to Hawaii. He did a year. He got out. Then you have 2 years in active service. Right before 9/11 hit, I got my little thank you for serving. You've completed your 8 total years of service to the United States Air Force. You're officially out. He got a phone call after a 9/11. Hey, we need you. Grab your mobility bag, get back down to the air base. They sent him to Uzbekistan for 12 months, and he lived in a GP medium tent about -20. So that was an expensive trip for him to go to Hawaii. So that's the only reason I didn't go. I even had the chance. If I move to AR, I'm not bringing any New England garbage with me except my taste for real cheesesteaks and good Italian food. Okay, you fit right in, Cranky. No problem. Bullpup in Georgia, we call all Coke. Yeah, it's all Coke here. I'll take a 7-Up. Okay, see, is there anything else? Anybody got any? We're going to wrap this thing up at about an hour. So we got 20 minutes. My stories tend to go long. So if you got more stories you want to learn, you got some question, you need to get in the line, I'll try to get to it. I hate for you just to sit here and watch me read stuff. Shave the dog and make him walk backwards. You shave the cat first and we'll talk about it. Add some grease to the animal's meal and it will help add moisture to the coat and lessen the shedding. I'll try that. My wife's already buying this stuff that costs like $1 a pound. It's all meat, no grain. I don't know. Man, when I was a kid, we went down to Walmart. We bought Old Roy, and the dog ate it or he died. The dog we have, he gets salmon and potatoes or something like that. I don't know. I'll try giving him some fat. I keep a jar of bacon grease on the stove. We'll get him over on bacon grease, see what happens. Wow, that was odd. Jamie can attest to my hair problem. How much did the coyote weigh? I have no idea. The one in the back is big, and I don't know what it weighed. The one I shot in the yard the other day, I don't know what it weighed. They both looked very similar. I just think we've got some big coyotes there in my area. Just to give you an idea of how big this coyote behind me, I shot it a couple 100 yards from my house, and the one that's mounted on the rock in the background. When we went to mount it, based on the measurements of the animal before we skin it, we had to order a small wolf form to mount that on because none of the coyote mannequins were big enough. So, I mean, that's an extremely large coyote, especially for Arkansas, because northern coyotes are usually bigger than ours to get through the winter. I like pineapple and chicken kebabs, just not on pizza. Amen. Don't bring that Hawaiian pizza with you down here. Gulfport, Mississippi was my first mission trip. Well, brother, I don't think it worked. That was Gulfport, Mississippi is a great place to be leaving. I'm not a religious man, but I sub to you, preacher. I enjoy your content and I'm grateful. Johnny suggested you a while back, and I enjoy more coyote kills. Thank you, Steve. The channel's not about preaching. I try not to make it a religious channel. I am going to sit down one day on the porch or by the fire and share with you the gospel that I preach. And I will sit down and do that. But my channel's not going to be just constantly barraging you with Bible and God. People who know me, they know where to find that. I'm not ashamed of my faith. I just don't want it to be that kind of channel. I don't want to limit the people that I'm able to reach through this channel. And if I make everything here about God and all that, then that's kind of defeating the purpose of my channel. I want it to be a variety channel where a guy that's not dropping F-bomb every other word or playing that weird music that sounds like a panther screaming and echoing. I just want it to be a channel where, you know, an honest Christian man can get up and do what he normally does, and people could, if you only enjoy that sort of thing, tune in. So it's not gonna, I'm not gonna beat you down with Bible, but I'm not gonna back away from a question if it's asked either. So we used to feed our dog pelletized dog food, and they would always look sad at the bowl. Yeah. Well, you know, they call it the doghouse for a reason. Coyotes are huge in Illinois. I believe that. Okay, since nobody else will ask, will you give us the possum salt recipe? The only other person that knows the possum salt recipe is Champ. And unless he learns how to talk like the Bush's baked bean dog, it'll die with me. Do you believe in Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, or other paranormal stuff? No. I don't believe in that. Look, if there was a Bigfoot, there might have been a Bigfoot at one time, just like there were carrier pigeons at one time, just like there were T-Rexes at one time and pterodactyls. Here's what happened. When God told Noah to get on the ark, God sent him 2 of every animal. I believe 2 of every one of those animals that ever existed got on that ark unless man had already wiped them out prior to the flood. But I believe during the flood, I believe those dinosaurs and all those things, the Bible talks about dinosaurs. It describes them. It doesn't call them a dinosaur, but it talks about an animal that like weighs a ton, has a tail that's as long as a redwood. That's a dinosaur, okay? Those things got on the ark. Not the great big old ones, because that's not what you'd want to start the species with when you got off. You would probably put young ones on there. But here's what I know about mankind. We have dominion from God over the earth and things of the earth. We're at the top of the food chain, okay? We have the right to clear the earth, to plant the earth, to plow the earth, and to kill and eat, okay? God-given rights, not in the Constitution, but from your Creator. Anything that interferes with our ability to do that, we tend to get rid of them, whether that's a wolf, whether that's a mountain lion, whether, you know, you name it. The reason there's not grizzly bears here is because we didn't like them killing the chickens. So mankind got rid of a lot of animals over the years that we now call extinct. And that's just part of the process. I hate if that throws your PETA feelings out of the way, but I'll just be honest with you. My view on the reintroduction of these wolves is awful. I went to Yellowstone before my daughter was born 22 years ago. There were animals everywhere. It was awesome. I went to Yellowstone with my son about 4 years ago. Dude, it was like a ghost town. But it was the wolves, man. The wolves have knocked those things down. And, you know, you can say, well, that's a park. It should be balanced. Well, you got to balance the wolves. We're not balancing the wolves. So Mankind has been given the task of regulating animals. I'm not for wiping any of them out. Now, I don't want to wipe them out to extinction. But like coyotes, man, these things need to be brought in check. Coons, armadillos, possums, they're overpopulated. The reason they're overpopulated, because when I was a kid, you could get $28 for a large raccoon. Those were 1978, 80 prices. $28 for a coon. What would $28 buy in 1978? You know what I get for a coon now if I skin it? I get like $1.50. What does $1.50 buy? Pack of gum? If you didn't ban furs and say fur's bad, then we wouldn't have raccoons in everybody's trash can and living in everybody's attic. That's a fireside chat for another day. Okay, where was I at here? No possum salt. Don't believe in the paranormal. If Bigfoots existed, we killed them. If they were still alive now, somebody got a game camera picture of them. I don't believe in ghosts. I do believe that there is a demonic presence on the earth. I believe a third of the angels followed Lucifer, got kicked out of heaven. They're here. I believe if you don't understand what you're looking at, you probably think you saw a ghost. Paranormal stuff? No, I believe there's two forces at work on the earth. One is God, and the other is his adversary, the devil. UFOs, intelligent life. If you read the Bible, the earth is the center of God's creation. Mankind is the pinnacle of God's created order. And so God created us in his image. Does that mean there's not life on another planet? I don't know. There could be, but I don't think there's intelligent beings on another planet capable of reaching us, just from the simple perspective that we are the intelligent being in creation. And the Bible doesn't say that the earth is flat. The Bible doesn't say that the sun spins around the earth. The Bible actually says that God hung the earth on its axis. And so God gives us clues before we understood that we're round and spinning. He already said that he formed the earth and hung it on its axis. So anyways, there again, Sunday school lesson. I promise not to preach. Nice. My brother shot a 51-pound coyote last year during deer season here in central Pennsylvania. 51-pounder is a whopper. Real whopper. Okay. We're coming in on 47 minutes and we're running out of questions. I was looking for a live stream tonight, and wow, we got the preacher. Excellent. I'm glad you like it, Tread. I appreciate you watching. I noticed there's 37 people watching. That blows my mind. I figured we'd be doing good if we got 10. And if y'all didn't have any questions, I was going to have to tell stories. LOL, Champ is the new Duke. My uncle had a bloodhound that he named Duke. Grady Gann wanted me to tell the grasshopper story where I'm eating grasshoppers. I'll tell a story on him. When Grady got his bloodhound, he named him Duke after the one on Beverly Hillbillies. He also had 2 Rottweiler puppies. I don't remember their name. There may be 1 Rottweiler puppy. I don't know. We were sitting in those lawn chairs where you lean way back like this, you know. Remember the old lawn chairs where the mesh was weaved across them? And we were sitting out in his front yard, and the dogs were running around, and I was sitting in one lawn chair, and he was sitting in another. Grady Gann, the cow man, was talking to me, and he had his head turned like this, and I was looking at him this way, you know. Well, he was turned. Well, old Duke was up there smelling of his head and his neck and his shoulder and smelling, and he was, Duke, get away, Duke. Well, Duke was smelling of him because he was planning on hiking his leg and peeing. And Duke, a bloodhound, you know how big a bloodhound is? That's how big their bladder is, too. Duke hiked his leg and peed on the coyote man's neck and shoulder and chest. And, of course, he didn't get it all out. As soon as he felt it, he got up and started hollering at the dog. So there, that's a true story when the coyote man lived up on top of Backbone. All right, where was we on this? Late as usual, but here from Calgary. Your fireside the other day really hit a chord with me. I'm old. My son is old enough, but he has no idea about the freedoms I had when I grew up in the USA. Well, Thomas, I'll tell you, I've tried to get it through to my kids, and they think I'm crazy. They think, oh, you're redneck, you're out of touch, you're the crazy guy, blah, 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 blah. But really, just keep telling the kids. They get it. When I go to college to see some of my daughter's art exhibits, all of her friends, they watch the channel. I mean, they're college kids. I'm saying they may not watch my fireside chat, but they're picking up a little bit of it. So all of us have a little influence. We ought to just be throwing it out there. If they pick it up, that's on them. It's our job to tell it. It's their job to get it. If we don't tell it, they ain't going to get it. Eagle Eye Shooting. Hey, Preacher just jumped on. Thanks for coming by, Kenny. It's good to hear from you. We could go for a nice preacher story. Man, my throat has been killing me. You going to plan on coming to Dead Zero Shooting Park meetup in April? It's the first I've heard about it. I don't know. I'll have to see how that fits into my calendar and see what I got going on in April. I do try to take a break some point during time in April. LOL. Hi. Hey, guys. Thor's Axe here. Hey, good to have you, David. Absolutely love your channel. Keep up the great videos. Thank you, Joseph. Kenny, everybody saying hi to each other. Good to have all you guys here. Preacher, you see the new 277 SIG Fury round, 140 grain at 3,000 feet per second with a 16-inch barrel. Wow, Troy, that's pretty impressive. I have not seen it. It's the first I've heard of it. But I'll tell you this, I'm not the guy that runs out and buys the new calibers when they come out, because what I found is all of them have a lot of kinks to work out. A lot of them are hard to reload for. Some of them are hard on brass. I'll let everybody work it out, and I'll be the last guy to get one until I become some great big channel where they're sending me firearms to review, which I doubt ever happens. Hello, Preacher's Day Off, old school with a modern twist. Who's it going for you? How's it going for you? It's going well. I've enjoyed a lot of your videos. You do great leather work, and I'm really impressed with that. James Pollard, hey, Preacher. Hello, James. Thanks for coming by. All right, we're coming in on 52 minutes. If you've got a question about me or anything else before I jump off here, you better get it in now. Hey, Preacher, what tradition do y'all do at church during the blessed time of the year? Sometimes I don't even preach on Christmas, Christmas message. I did this year. I preached on why Christ chose to announce the birth of Jesus, or why God chose to announce the birth of Jesus to the shepherds. And but we don't really have anything spectacular. We have a Thanksgiving dinner the Sunday before Thanksgiving. And then the month of December, we kind of just lay low. We have a meal together every month. And then in December, we just kind of, everybody's got family coming in or they're going to their family. We have our annual business meeting. I try to prepare a gift for everybody in the church. When I gave out possum salt last year to some of you guys that had mailed me stuff or gave me items, I gave everybody in our church, every family got possum salt. This year, what did I give out this year? Oh, right here. This year I gave out fruit baskets. And I mailed out some Wonderberry jelly. I grew these Wonderberries in the garden. So they got those, or raspberry. I gave out some Chow Chow. And here's some cowboy candy. I don't know if you can see that, but that's like the sweet syrup and jalapeno slices. And then some of you guys may get some of this in the mail. I don't know if that's going to focus or not. Let me see. Oh, right there. It's backwards. Preacher's Pickled Possum Pate. Gluten-free. I'll save the rest for you if you get it in the mail. Everybody in the church got 3 items like that, and then some pears and oranges and stuff like that. I try to give everybody here a gift. It's my way of letting them know that I love and appreciate them. And in return, what they do is they always, behind my back, without me knowing about it, they go around and gather up money and they give me a big old fat Christmas card with money in it. And I guess we just try to outgive each other every year. But that's hard to do when it's one versus the whole church. So hope that answers your question. What's wrong with the 270 Winchester? It does that. Same caliber. There you go. Spencer in Tennessee. Georgia Shooting Connection meetup. April pending, check motel availability. All right. Keep me in the loop, and I may try to, but if it works out, I'd love to go do it. I'm limited on vacation. I try to spend that with my wife, my kids, and then I try to take some and do a little hunting. But if I can work it in, see, the thing for me, everybody talks about weekends. I don't have a weekend per se because I work every Sunday. So if I go somewhere for a weekend, you might as well make it a vacation. And so it's hard for me to get away. That's just part of being a preacher. Did you ever believe in Santa Claus? Yeah, till I was about 5. Matter of fact, I used to set mouse traps in the hallway. We had a fireplace, but I knew Santa came from the hallway. So I set mouse traps in the hallway. And if I'd had a game camera back then, I would have for sure had video proof that Santa didn't come down the fireplace. I played Santa Claus and all that with my kids, but by the time they were about 6, I was like, look, kids, this is like the Tooth Fairy and everything else. So I just pretty much clued it in. Man, we look like we got blurry all of a sudden. I don't know. Maybe I need there we go. And then it went back out. Who knows? What else we got? 6.5, I know nothing about. How long have you been preaching? I started preaching a little over 13 years ago. I preached around just here and there for about 9 months. I pastored a church for a year, and then I've been at this church at Lee Creek Baptist for 12 years. So I think it's in March. March will be like 14 years, something like that. I put possum salt on my eggs this morning. That's good, JCM. People in church were a little upset when they didn't get possum salt. They all were using up the last of their possum salt, thinking they were going to get it again this year. But I'll be honest with you, why I didn't do possum salt again this year is I planted cayenne peppers, and I lost one of the peppers. And so I only had half of what I needed, and I didn't have enough cayenne pepper to make possum salt. That's why. Cayenne pepper is a big part of the ingredient. And so I didn't have enough. I didn't grow enough peppers, and I wasn't going to go buy cayenne because I think my cayenne is better than what you get in the store. They just taste different. Preacher, I don't know, and I don't speak for everyone here without having Sunday school. I don't mind your references to the Bible. You have an oath not to weave God and preaching into your show. You have an oath not to weave God. No, I'm not going to back away from. I know you don't mind, Dave. I understand that. I just don't want my channel to be like. Here's what I hate, guys, and I know Dave, and I know most of you. Even if you don't care anything in the world about God, you have no interest in Him. That's okay. That's not what I would wish for you. But Baptists have a doctrine that basically no other group has. It's called liberty of conscience. Baptist, if you look at Rhode Island was founded on Baptist principles because they were ran out of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. They basically had nowhere to go. You either had to be a pilgrim, or you had to be a Catholic, or you had to be a Church of England, or you had to be a this. And so Rhode Island caught on, then Pennsylvania, and I'll talk about this some, but basically I believe that every man's entitled to believe whatever he wants. Now, my job is to tell you what I believe, where I got my information from. But what I hate is this bait and switch tactic, okay? Like this, okay? Let's make this blue thing the gospel, okay? Let's make this whatever you like. Hey, you want to go fishing with the preacher? Come tune in for fishing. Here's God. Here's the gospel. Now you listen to this Bible story and we'll go back to fishing. I don't want to bait and switch. The story I got don't need to be propped up by hunting and fishing. So I don't want this to be a hunting and fishing God channel. Does that make sense? If you want to know what I believe about God, I've got 1,200 sermons on the internet. There's about 1,400 sermons of mine downloaded every month. My message is available. I'm just not going to, hey, let's reload. And now we're going to talk about God. Let's go work in the garden. Here's God. If I have to do this to get you to listen to this, I just soon set this over here and say, if you want to talk about that, it's right over there. And I'll be glad to talk about it. But if you ask me, I'm not going to say, oh, no, I can't talk about that. So I'm not shying away from God. I just don't want this to be a channel where you tune in for one thing and you get another. And so I hope that kind of explains things to you. Do you got a video on Chow Chow? I made Chow Chow for the first time last year, and it was amazing. I've got an old recipe from the mountains of Western North Carolina. And dude, as soon as I get some green tomatoes, I'm going to show y'all the best Chow Chow video you've ever had. It's great. I made a batch of it. I wish I'd have made 5 batches of it. I mean, my wife's like, are you really going to give that to the people in church? I'm like, that's what we made it for, huh? So we kept a couple jars for us, and I'm giving some to my in-laws and my mother-in-law and stuff like that. All right, this thing's moving pretty quick. What did I see here? I know why, and I believe that's wisdom, dude. Thanks, Dave. I knew you would. I believed in Santa till my dad stepped on my Legos and Tonka trucks. That's what the mouse traps were for. The only problem was my dad saw me setting the mouse traps. It's your favorite WWE superstar. Man, I'd have to go way back. I haven't watched that since I was a little kid. I used to like to watch Ric Flair. I don't know if he's WWE. I'm going back to like I don't like the WCW days, like Michael P.S. Hayes and the Thunderbirds and stuff like that. I think that was only like in the South. I don't know if anybody ever saw them guys. I went one time to a place called Steer Palace, which was like an indoor rodeo arena. And we saw Michael P.S. Hayes and the Thunderbirds, and they fought the Missing Link. And somebody else was there. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was there. I'm trying to think of the guy from Oklahoma, the big dark-headed guy. His move was just that he would take off running and hit you like a football player. Anyways, I didn't watch wrestling. Once it kind of turned into I tell you, the last thing I remember seeing was like the big boss man tied a chain around somebody's daddy's coffin and drug it out of a cemetery. And I'm like, this is just plumb crazy. And I quit watching the WWE. No kids can have game cams. Yeah, that's true. Your favorite WWE superstar? I tell you what I do like. I do like to watch the UFC. And I like to watch a fella get knocked out for real, not hit with a chair across the back, but I like to watch the UFC. What is your favorite superstar? I believe in God and I respect all others. I believe in respect. Want to be treated. That's me, Warsaw Patriot. I joined the Baptist church down in Leesburg, Florida in '84. Good job, Fuzz. Uncle Jim, they don't need game cams. They can just hack the home security camera nowadays. That's probably true, Cranky. Hey, Warsaw. Hey, everyone. Levergun 50. Thanks for coming by. Do you have another barbecue review video coming up soon? I actually have a little time off coming up soon. And we are planning. There's a really good barbecue place just across the line in Oklahoma. I've been eating there since I was 5 years old. when my dad worked for Pepsi. He met the guy, put a Pepsi machine out there, and we're talking like 70s, late 70s. And he had to go back and get the Pepsi machine and take it back. The guy didn't want a fountain like fill up a drink. He said, "No, just put a cooler out there, with cans in it. They can just pay their 50 cents out there, a quarter, or whatever it was back then." My dad had to go back and get it because the guy kept putting beer in it. He'd go out there to fill up the Pepsis and it'd be all beer, and then couldn't get no Pepsis out of it. So, anyways, that guy's dead. His sons have got it, and it's not what it was when the old man had it. Of course, the health department kept shutting him down. There were goats and turkeys in the yard, and you ate on picnic tables. The guy smoked a cigar, and ashes would fall into food, and it was pretty crazy. But that place is still there. We're going to go try it, and then I'm going to try in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to try while I'm out of town to hit some distant barbecue joints, and we'll be doing another barbecue review. How about praise the Lord and pass the ammunition? How about it? Okay, very good. I love the UFC too. Oh man, where did I go here? Ravish and Rick Rude. Yeah, I remember him. Man, things flew by. I keep a King James on the shelf with my reloading manuals. It's good practice. Love chow chow and pintos. Me too. What about air fryers, preacher? The devil brought those along. I think an air fryer came from Satan himself. Preacher, that's the story. What's the story on the coyote? This one here, I shot it during deer season about 5 years ago, and gave it to a taxidermist buddy of mine to mount and see if he wanted to sell it. And he called me back, and he's like, "You realize how big this is?" And I was like, "That's big, and I thought you might want it." And he said it was too big. And so that's when we realized that it was the size of a small wolf, and so bought a wolf for him, and I just paid him. He mounted the coyote, and I built the rock that it was on. I used to do some taxidermy work. Troy, he ate that coyote. I've never eaten coyote, never will, unless I get it in a Korean stir fry and don't know any better. Everyone have a Merry Christmas. Back on the Freddie Blassie and the Destroyer days. Don't know. Maybe must have slipped my memory. My favorite wrestlers are dead or retired. I tell you, we did go watch a guy. What was his name? He was like 80 years old. Danny Hodge, I think. He was a wrestler. Like my dad saw him as a kid, and we went and saw this guy. It's probably been 10 years ago. And he was just supposed to make an appearance, and he come out and jumped over the top ring and punched the Iron Sheik. The Iron Sheik was there, by the way. And that guy's still alive, which kind of blew my mind. Anyway, hey, y'all. Man, we're up to 40 people. I've got to shut this thing down. I told my wife I'd be home in 15 minutes, and it's a 20-minute drive, and I'm not ready to go yet. So, question, how many doors do you put in? How many doors do you put in? I've never put any doors in. If you looked at the one on the chicken house, you could tell that real quick. It's bad. I built that chicken house with just a wood door on it, and it sat out there for a year, and it got all warped, and I never could get it straightened back up. So when I went to put the storm door on, there wasn't no making it square. So I just got the skill saw out and cut the other side to match. So the door shut. Question, how many doors do you put in? I got that. Too many steroids, Michael. Yep. It's not what it used to be. Love the barbecue vids, not as much as I do making them. Is that a fox in the background? It's a coyote, lactating shag fox who keeps smelling her wiener time mean. Okay. Man, that'd be funny if I could pronounce whatever you were trying to make out there, Boomer. I hope by Boomer you mean baby Boomer and not Boomer Sooner. My goodness. That's neat, Dan. LOL on the air fryers. I'll spat on the coffee out in the air fryer comment. Sorry about that, Kenny. Hope you was pointing in a safe direction. Does the air fryer work? No, it doesn't work. You can't fry without grease. This is what's wrong with our country. And the fact that you people want to know if it works. Just go get your hair dryer, put some tater tots out on frozen tater tots on a paper plate, turn the hair dryer on. You let that run for about 5 minutes, then try you one, and then go over there and you heat up some lard, L-A-R-D, lard, and drop them in there and let them go till they get crispy, and then you eat them, and you'll throw that air fryer out the window. Of course, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to eat like a country boy. You're going to have to work like a country boy, or the heart doctor is going to shut you down and start teaching you air frying junk. You can eat coyote. No, you can. I will not eat coyote. Ever shagged your sis? No, sir. Never ask anybody else if they have either. Might have a problem you need to work on. Got me a crescent hammer. All right, about to wrap this thing up. I accidentally deep fried my thumb. Got to have grease. Yes, you do. Love you, preacher. Love you too, Uncle Jim. Keep your eye on the mailbox. Hoping to see some more vids of you busting coyotes. I'd have to really get out and hunt them, and I just don't have time. Ozark Spirit's been wanting to come down, and we just haven't had time to get out and do it. Israeli settlers burned down a Catholic church near Galilee. That's what happens over there. All right. I got to get off here. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been an hour and 12 minutes. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you watching my channel. I hope y'all all have a Merry Christmas. Spend some time with your family. Please enjoy your family if you're able to. If you're not able to, make the best of Christmas as you can. I really do appreciate you guys watching what I do, and appreciate you all tuning in and commenting. And I've really enjoyed the last hour and 13 minutes. And if I had good internet at the house, I would do these more often. But part of the sacrifice you make of living out where I live is you have internet that's about as fast as a carrier pigeon. So thank y'all for watching. I'll try to do more fireside chats, but that's just me kind of getting my thoughts and opinions out. I would rather sit down with you guys like this where y'all could interact with me. I enjoy the interaction, and I really enjoy your questions, and thank you guys for watching. It means a lot to me. You know, I've said all along, I don't have much in this world, but I've got some good friends, and you can't put a price tag on that. And I appreciate you guys more than I could let you know. And if money was no object, I'd send you all a care packet, and everybody would get Preacher's Pickled Possum Pate, gluten-free. But I just don't have the money for the shipping this year. So I'll send out a few. If you sent me something in the mail this year, you better keep an eye on your mailbox. And hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas. I'm shutting it down with that. We'll see you on the next video.